Zenless Zone Zero's combat system feels fantastic. The game puts just enough of a twist on a tried and true formula to make the game feel both familiar and fresh at the same time. Not to mention, the beautiful graphics, art, and animations just take this game to the next level. Needless to say, Hoyoverse kinda has me hooked again. So I got into Zenless Zone Zero's very first beta test, and I know a lot of people are eager to learn more about the game. Today, I'm going to give you everything you need to know about Zenless Zone Zero's combat system from this closed beta to give you an idea of what to expect when either the next beta test rolls around or when the game releases down the line. Since the game is a completely new experience for everyone, there's a lot of basics to cover. Let's not waste any more time and get this guide rolling. Zenless Zone Zero has 3 different types of standard attacks that are universal to all characters: basic attacks, dash attacks, and dodge attacks. Basic attacks are the most easiest and self-explanatory attack. You press the left click button, you perform an attack chain. This is no different from any other games. Dash attacks are also pretty self-explanatory, where you immediately press the attack button right after dashing. Who would have thought? So far from my beta experience, dash attacks in Zenless Zone Zero are great for 2 things. First, enemies are often spread out in the instant stages, so dash attacks are good gap closers to get from one enemy to the next. Second, dash attacks are also great to keep up DPS against the enemy when you constantly have to dodge. The dodge cooldown is super short in ZZZ, so oftentimes I find myself performing multiple dash attacks in quick succession. The third type of attack in Zenless is the dodge attack. Unlike similar games such as Honkai Impact or Punishing Grey Raven, there is no definitive time fracture mechanic yet, but again, the name dodge attack lends itself to be pretty self-explanatory. Pressing the attack button immediately after perfectly timing a dodge will perform a dodge attack. This mechanic right here is one thing that separates the good from the great when it comes to combat in Zenless Zone Zero, because it has an extra effect that we'll talk about later. Last but not least, we have sub-attacks. I didn't mention this 4th type of attack in the previous section because these aren't universal to every single character. Sub-attacks are extensions or modifications to a character's basic attack string. Of the characters that have them, specific criteria and or inputs are generally required to perform these sub-attacks. For example, the starter agent Ombi has a sub-attack that allows her to swipe down with her sword to deal electric damage, even though her basic attack string only deals physical damage. The specific input for Ombi's sub-attack is to hold down the attack button after launching her first 3 basic attacks. Other characters like Miyabi even have special mechanics that dictate the use of a sub-attack. For Miyabi, completing a full basic attack is one way to grant her a stack of Arcane Blade. Stacks of Arcane Blade can be seen in the top left corner under her portrait, and once she has 3 stacks available, she can hold down the attack button to unleash an AoE slash that deals ice damage. On the other hand, there are also characters that don't have a sub-attack. Billy, who is another starter character, has no description under his attack other than his basic attack string. Our next topic to cover is special attacks. Special attacks are really just the equivalent of elemental skills in Genshin. Its default keybind is the E key for PC players, and each character has their unique special attack with different effects. If your special attack icon is colorful, that means your EX special attack is ready. Yes, this is actually the official name of the mechanic, and no matter how tasteful or untasteful you think the name is, this mechanic is very important to Zenless Zone Zero's combat system. Getting access to your EX special attack has to do with the Ether Energy system. Ether Energy is generated by basic attacking enemies, killing enemies for Ether Energy, or breaking destructibles around the instance area. You can keep track of how much energy you have by looking at the gauge to the right of your health bar. Not only is the EX special attack a lot more powerful than a regular special attack, but it also can enhance agents' combos or even change the way an agent is played. Anton is the prime example of this, where unleashing his EX attack puts him in a state that's called the explosive stance. In this stance, he constantly consumes his remaining energy to boost his normal attacks, grant him electric damage instead of physical damage, and even give him the opportunity to extend his drill-like attacks, which you can't do normally. Zenless Zone Zero has a mechanic called Stagger. Every enemy has an extra bar under their health bar that tracks their stagger status. Once that bar is filled up completely, your character will stun the enemy and you're free to DPS the enemy down for a short period of time while they take increased damage. Pretty simple stuff. If you're curious about the stagger values for everything, the advanced stats and multipliers page for every agent has percentage values for stagger on every single hit of their kit. In general, stagger values are extremely high for EX special attacks and ultimates. And if you want more DPS after staggering the enemy, that takes us into the QTE system. Some of you who have played Honkai Impact or Punishing Grey Raven are very familiar with the QTE system, but for those who aren't, it's essentially a powerful switch-in attack that you can perform to efficiently swap between your party of 3. ZZZ doesn't actually call these attacks QTEs aside from the icon in the character stats page, and instead they call them combo attacks. Regardless of what you want to call them, combo attacks are triggered by landing a heavy attack on a staggered enemy. The game is pretty vague on what is and isn't a heavy attack, but in general, the tutorial tells you that the easiest way to trigger a combo attack off a staggered enemy is your special attacks. Most special attacks will have the properties of a heavy attack and can trigger a QTE. I haven't been able to test every single move on every single character, but from my testing so far, a lot of sub-attacks also count as heavy attacks. There will be a couple of exceptions to this, like so far in my testing, I had a difficult time triggering Nekomata's QTE with her sub-attack. I could only seem to get it to work half the time using her EX special attack and consistently with her ultimate. The info section of each agent doesn't explicitly say what can and cannot trigger a combo attack, so if I were to guess, it's just because Nekomata's attacks are very fast and hit for light damage. Assist attacks are combo attacks, but the opposite. Instead of staggering an enemy and landing a strong attack to trigger the QTE, there is another mechanic that allows you to switch in after getting knocked off your feet. Assist attacks are a very interesting recovery mechanic that I've never really seen before in these types of games. Not sure if Hoyoverse wants to do something in the future with these, but for now it's good to know that they exist. Lots of damage? Check. Flashy animations? Check. If you couldn't guess, we've reached the part where I talk about signature moves. One clarification that needs to be made right off the start is that a character's ultimate has zero relation to the ether energy system that I talked about earlier. With that out of the way, you're probably asking, well, how do I even charge up my ultimate then? The answer to that is the Decibel rating system. Rating is split into 3 stages named Uproar, Blasting, and Maximum in ascending order. You'll naturally build up your decibel rating by just hitting enemies, but 2 ways to accelerate the rate at which you increase your decibel rating are performing combo attacks and dodge attacks. Once you reach the maximum stage of decibel rating, you're able to cast one ultimate between one of your 3 party members, so choose wisely. It's cool to note that for lighter hitting characters like Miyabi or Nekomata, ultimates are a great way for these characters to trigger a combo attack / QTE if you can't do it off their sub attacks or EX special attacks. In Zenless Zone Zero, there are also 3 different types of attack categories that each agent falls into. These categories are slashes, strikes, and pierce. In general, any sword-like or sharp weapon wielder will be in the slash category, any heavy hitter will be in the strike category, and any gunslinger will be in the pierce category. Each type of attack category will have a corresponding enemy type that they match up well against, allowing them to accumulate stagger faster than normal. From my experience, slashers will have good matchups against any of the ethereal / corrupted enemies you see, strikers will have good matchups against any mechanical enemies, and piercers will have good matchups against any humanoid enemies. If you think about it logically from a real-life standpoint, this actually does make a lot of sense. As for the types of elemental damage such as fire, ice, lightning, and physical, I haven't been able to find any official tooltips explaining the exact effects. However, after a ton of gameplay, reading some of the disk drive effects, and rewatching my footage, I can say that each element has different effects. Ice can freeze enemies, fire can apply a burning effect, and lightning can shock enemies for an additional instance of lightning damage. For those who don't know what disk drives are, they are basically just the artifacts of Zenless Zone Zero, and getting certain combinations have different set effects. Aside from that, that's pretty much all you need to know when it comes to the basics. Zenless Zone Zero has a really interesting combat system with some new twists, so hopefully you learned something new even if you've been playing the game or watching a ton of streams. It would be nice for Hoyoverse to add a little more clarity on some of the aspects, but overall I can at least say that the combat mechanics are quite fleshed out. If you have any other questions or suggestions for Zenless Zone Zero content, let me know down in the comment section below. If you enjoyed this guide or thought it was useful, be sure to support both the video and the channel. You can follow me on Twitch or sub to the YouTube channel, whatever people do nowadays. Other than that, it's the same as always. I'll see y'all in the next one. Peace.